Happy Friday, Bougie Squad. Thank you all so much for joining us for another conversation here on the I'm Bougie Girl podcast with HerStory. I'm super excited for another Friday night conversation with Dr. Sharlene Allen Milton. Super excited to be speaking with her about her new book and just her life as a social worker and how she's impacting her community. So I'm super excited, but I also want to just give you all a few announcements. Hello, Joe. Thank you so much for joining. Share this out, you all. Thank you all for being here with me on tonight. Again, my name is Miranda. And if this is your first time with on the Bougie Girl podcast, Bougie stands for being bold, one of a kind, unbothered, God's girl, intentional, and elegant. So we're not the world's bougie, right? We are God's kind of bougie. So we are bougie according to what the word says. So thank you for being a part of our platform, for being a part of this conversation. And again, say hello to me as you come into the room and share this out. You guys, I am super excited because next Friday is my conference, the Bougie from Broken to Bougie conference. This is a virtual conference, a virtual encounter. You can go to Eventbrite and register today. It's a conference that is going to bless your life. Go to Eventbrite and type in From Broken to Bougie. It's a journey of healing, deliverance, and empowerment. Here is the flyer. I have 4 dynamic speakers: Bishop R.C. Blakes Jr., Queenology, Pastor Deatrice D. Lewis. He's going to be talking about detoxing and detaching. Minister Shayna Rattler. She's going to be talking about positioning for purpose. And the breakthrough strategist, Lakeisha Dixon. She's going to be talking about waiting well. So I'm super excited. You all register for this conference. It's going to be virtual, 2 days for $25. You don't want to miss it. It's going to bless you. Go to Eventbrite for more details. And I am excited for you all to be in attendance. So let's get started on tonight. Let me tell you all about our guest. Super excited to have with us Dr. Sharlene Allen Milton, also known as a WorkLife Management Strategist, is a native of New York. She holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in social work from Morgan State University, a Master of Clinical Social Work degree from Smith's College, and a Doctorate of Education degree in Human and Organizational Learning from George Washington University. Dr. Allen Milton is a published author of peer-reviewed articles, and her research interests are in the areas of disparate remote social work, work-life balance for women, and graduate students of color. Having worked as a clinical social worker for over 15 years with adults, children, and youth, Dr. Allen Milton possesses a wealth of experience working with individuals experiencing social emotional challenges. Dr. Allen Milton also has extensive experience providing professional development workshops for human services workers and mental health education to faith-based organizations. Dr. Allen Milton serves as an assistant professor at a historically Black college and university. In Maryland, Dr. Allen Milton is the wife of Carl Milton Sr. and the mother of Anna. Whether in the role of mother, wife, professor, or clinical facilitator, Dr. Allen Milton's motto is to educate, equip, and support. Wow, what an amazing and a dynamic woman. Bougie Squad audience, please help me to welcome tonight Dr. Sharlene Allen Milton. Hello, hello.
Hello, how are you? Hi, greetings, Bougie Squad. Oh my God, I'm a bougie girl.
Yes,
and I'm
you
not
are.
a bougie girl in according to the world sense, but I'm a bougie girl and I love it. Hello.
Yes, thank
Oh my
you.
gosh. Thank you so much. And congratulations on your conference and everything that you're doing. This is amazing, Miranda.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Sharlene. I'm super excited. And I'm super excited to be speaking with you because, we're kind of in the same vein. I'm a mental health first aid coach, and I'm super excited to be talking to you about the importance of mental health especially in our community. Hello, everyone. Hello, Billy. You all say hello as you come in and share this out as you're coming in and ask questions if you have questions as well. So I want to get started by asking you, you know, last year was a interesting year for many of us. Some of us felt like it was a relief because we were able to kind of relax and release and let go. But what did 2020 teach you about yourself or just anything new that you learned during that time?
I learned in 2020 about God's reset.
Mm,
And that was a
that's
big
awesome.
word for me in 2020, reset, because it was in 2020 that I took the time to reevaluate, to relook, it was a re year. We're going to
Yeah.
reevaluate. We're going to reassess. We're going to reclaim. We're going to restore. We're going to,
Right.
redirect.
Right.
That was the year to relook, to reclaim that it was a reset year for me. And not only was it a reset year for me, but it was also a year where I learned so much about social media, where I learned so much about the grace of God as it pertained to social media, because I came out of private practice hiatus. And so I felt like it was time. My daughter is now 5. She's more independent. And I feel like as a mom, that I got I'm back, God blessed me to be a mom at 42. And I'm now 47. And so I had a private practice. I was working with people, as you said in my introduction, and plus I'm a professor. Now I teach, or teach and train master level
Right.
students how to become social workers. But I wanted to
Awesome.
reemerge, and I didn't want to reemerge as a therapist. So it was after having a consultation and having and prayer, I realized that I wanted to reemerge as a work-life management strategist. So that's what really happened to me in 2020. I became acquainted with um, all of these social media outlets. And I had the grace to, post on social media outlets that I had not used in so
Wow.
many years, but there became a grace to do this. And that grace and that oil is evident of me being with you today. And I'm just so grateful. 2020 taught me that we can persevere. Um, and that also it taught me boundaries. It also
That's
taught me
awesome.
boundaries. And it also taught me that it's okay um, to be home, because it was a
Mm.
time to reevaluate,
Right. Right.
reevaluate priorities, reevaluate
Right.
boundaries, reevaluate what really matters. So out of it, there's the top five of my priorities, from the top 5 that create boundaries. And if you don't like it, oh well, I love it.
Well, let's expound out, that's so awesome. I mean, I love it. We have to set boundaries, right? Because we have to protect our space. We have to protect our heart. Talk a little bit more about that. Why are boundaries so important, and why are people, feel like it's being rude if you set boundaries?
Let me tell y'all something. This is what I do, right? Um, I talk about boundaries. Boundaries have primarily two two responsibilities for us. They protect us, right? And
Right.
they safeguard us, and they protect us from the bad, and they keep the good in, right?
Mm,
And
that's
so
good.
um sometimes we need to create boundaries from good and bad people, because we are often
Wow.
yes people because of whatever reasons, that we're yes people pleasing, and that's a whole nother conversation. But when we're people pleasing, when boundaries should be in place,
Right.
because we then become stressed out and overwhelmed, because we don't have the priorities in place, we don't have the boundaries in place, so that we can do what the things that we need to do, right? Another thing why boundaries are so important is because um I talked about protecting us, right?
Right.
They protect us emotionally, right? And they protect us from being stressed out. When you have things that need to be done and people don't understand um we
Right.
realize that the people that don't understand, which could be our loved ones, our friends and families, they don't understand, but you understand. And therefore, that boundary needs to be in place. I'm a professor. That boundary needs to be in place because guess what? Those friends and families are not going to take those tests for you, write those papers for you, do
Right.
that work for you.
That
You
is
know
so
what I
true.
mean?
Yeah.
So, boundaries are very important, and I could just go on.
Thank you so much for sharing that because I think sometimes people feel like if they set boundaries, then they're being rude. And like you said, boundaries protect us and they keep us in line and keep us in track so we won't become people pleasers. I know for years I was that type of person. I was a people pleaser. And so it can become dangerous when we feel like we have to please other people, perform for people.
And they safeguard us, right?
Right.
Um, one of the things that talk about, boundaries based on their function protect us from mental, physical, emotional, and psychological stressors or triggers.
Wow.
Boundaries also show others how we like to be treated. So if we
Exactly.
don't have any boundaries and people keep coming to
Right.
you and you're overwhelmed, sometimes when you begin to set boundaries, people might be looking at you like, oh, you acting brand new. What's up?
Right.
But
Right.
boundaries are important, right? Because you need to let people know, no, you can't come to me with the last minute
Right.
stuff. You can't come to me thinking that whatever, the fill in
Right.
the blank. And a
Right.
lot of times, boundaries are needed at work. They're needed with
Right.
our family. They're needed with our loved ones. And boop boop, they're also needed for singles. Okay,
Talk talk a little
that's a
bit more
whole other
about
thing.
that. You know what?
Well,
Let's get
okay,
into it. You
okay,
brought it up.
all
Let's
right,
get
all
into
right,
it.
all right. Listen, that D. Okay, all right. So I got married when I was 42. No,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, 43. I had my daughter when I was 42.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So sis was single for a minute. And because of my struggles with low self-esteem and certain things, and low self-esteem and low self-worth, I struggled with dating. Did I date? Yes. Did I
Mm-hmm.
date the right people? No. Because I was, and this often happens, I was trying to look for love. Some of us have parental wounds, father
Right.
wounds, mother wounds. And when we're trying to look for love from that parent, we are become these fictitious directors in a
Mm.
play that never ends up the way we want it to end up.
Wow. Wow.
Right?
That's
So
good.
we think that if we are overly nice because we struggled with past
Right.
whatever parental wounds we have,
Right. Right.
we think that
Right.
if we're overly nice and overly accepting and don't set boundaries, that they'll like us. They won't,
Right. Exactly.
because you're not showing them how to treat you. Actually, you are showing them how to treat you. They'll
Right.
treat you any kind of way because we don't set boundaries.
Exactly.
Okay. And I always say, I'm not just, I don't know if y'all see this. I have to stop saying this joke because I think it's a joke, but y'all might not think it's a joke because you may have not seen the commercial, but you know that commercial that says, I'm not just a hair club president. I'm not the hair
Right.
club. I'm just not a hair club custom client. I'm also the
To the
president.
president. Right.
Right. So I'm not just talking about this from a clinical perspective. I've
Right.
also lived it. So
Right. You also the president, so you can you can be
yes,
the president of your own chapter. Right, and I mean,
I'm not just the
and
president, I'm the client too. So
exactly, and and I think that's where the greatest story comes from, and the greatest testimony is when we're part of that story, when we're not just like seeing it on the outside, but we're actually living that. And I know you mentioned during that, you talked about having mother and father wounds. growing up, did you experience having mother and father wounds?
I did. I did. As a result of that, I had to experience um, growth. I had to experience deliverance. I had to experience counseling
Hmm.
to help with those gaps and with
Hmm.
those emotional delays. And I'm glad that I did.
Wow. Hmm.
And forgiveness. Don't forget about that.
Sure.
You know, so I'm glad that I did.
We have to forgive. So let's backtrack because one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was your upbringing, your childhood. This young girl. We see you as an accomplished Dr. Sharlene right now, but talk to us about when you were a teenager growing up. What was going on in your life during that time?
There was a lot going on in my life emotionally, right? And so as a result of what was going on emotionally, um, like I said, struggled with low self-esteem and low self-worth,
Mhm.
and I had to work through that.
Was
Um,
it because you were not validated by like your father or your mother, or you just felt like you weren't being validated? Why do you feel like you suffered with the low self-worth?
so sometimes many people can suffer with low self-worth and low self-esteem because there is, just like I said, a low self-worth, lack of um, acceptance,
Hmm.
feelings of rejection, feelings
Sure.
of um, there's a lot of things that come with not feeling accepted,
Hmm.
feeling rejected. And so as a result of that, one may feel like they have to perform and strive. And
Right.
as a result of performing and striving, um, we are not operating from our authentic self, but from
Sure.
a void of wanting to feel validated. And so, yeah, that can often happen when people struggle in the area of low self worth and low self esteem.
Right, right. And so as you're going on, like you said, you had a lot of things emotionally going on into your life. So did you go on to go to college, or did you kind of put that on the back burner? What was the progress and the steps for you? What was that journey for you?
Yes, thank you so much for asking that question. So I graduated high school with a 1.6 GPA.
Mm, okay.
And I went on to college. I went on to Morgan State University, and I'm
Mm,
so grateful to my alma mater. And it was there that I learned some lessons.
mhm,
My father
mhm.
was paying for my education at the time, and my first semester, I was so excited to be at all at HBCU, learning
Yeah.
about spades, learning and seeing all these different Black people from so many different places.
Wow.
I was staying up 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Wasn't
He
going
was
to
having you
class.
a good time.
Oh my gosh. Until my father got my report card. I was on
Oh my goodness.
academic probation. The night before I was scheduled to leave, he was like, "You better get yourself a job at McDonald's because I'm not paying for this." And then my
Wow.
family had to beg him my car was packed up. You
Oh
hear
my
me?
goodness.
The night before, and my family begged, my family on both sides, my mother's side, my father's side, his best friend, I mean everybody. And then he did allow me to go back. But you know
Uh-huh.
what? That's when I learned about, and I talk about it in the book with
Mhm.
regards to organization. That's when I learned about my rhythm, my body rhythm. And
Mm,
that's when
okay.
I learned that I'm not a morning person. And so
Okay.
my first class before started at 8:30, not happening. So my
No.
first class, second semester, started at 11, ended at 5. That was according to my rhythm. And then I ended up making the dean's list 2 semesters in a row, and I ended up graduating
Wow.
with a 3.1 GPA. So I'm very grateful for that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, and sometimes when we're organizing, we organize according to white male dominant organization structure,
Sure.
and they don't take into account all of the roles that we navigate in: mom, work, community.
Right.
They don't take into
Right.
account of that. Neither do they take into account our body rhythm. Some people are naturally morning people, and some
Right.
people are naturally night people or evening people. So the night and evening people cannot wake up at 5:30. They wake up at 5:30 in the AM, they're going to feel defeated.
Right.
You know
They're
what
going
I
to crash
mean?
and burn.
Right.
Sure.
They're going to feel defeated. Like, how come this is not working? Well, it's
Right.
not working because it's not according to your rhythm. Now you take those strategies that the person said at 5:30 and apply it within reason to your rhythm, and you watch how you'll be more organized and successful.
Wow. So that is so awesome, to find your rhythm, and understand what best works for you instead of maybe trying to fit into someone else's pattern or rhythm. Find what works for you and then find a career or a job that will flow with that rhythm and
Yes.
that will match that so you can be productive and successful. So when did you decide or discover you wanted to be a social worker?
Oh my gosh. I decided I was like a second semester freshman, and I went
Oh,
in for business because on my father's side,
mhm.
we're they're business accountants. They're really good with
Right.
numbers. I'm not good with numbers, but I'm really good with people. And I found
Right.
I love to listen to people's problems and stuff like that. And then I came to understand that that was called social work. And that's
Right.
how I became a social worker. Yeah, that's how I became a social worker. And so I knew the type of social worker that I wanted to be was one that would listen to people's problems. And
Right.
so the social work field is so vast,
Right.
that I ended up choosing to be a clinical social worker so I could do
Right.
therapy actually.
So do you specialize in mental health? Because I know you work with people that have health struggles. Why is that so important that you do that work within our community?
Thank you so much for asking that question. When
Sure.
I um, decided to become a clinical social worker and decided to get my master's degree
Mhm.
in clinical social work from Smith College, and that was in 1995.
Mhm.
There were a lot of practitioners or clinical practitioners that did
Mhm.
not look like the population, and the population looked like us. And
Right.
so it was my decision to say, I want to serve the population, and I want them to see someone who looks like them so that
Right.
there is some level a level of comfort, not saying that I understand what they're experiencing, but there is a level of ease and a level of
Sure.
comfort when you are in a vulnerable space and place,
Right.
and you are sitting across from someone who looks like you. And so
Right.
that's what made me want to specialize in mental health, because
Right.
we are in um, urban populations.
Mhm.
Mental health disparity, there
Sure.
are mental health disparities, and African Americans are diagnosed with mental health challenges.
Right.
And so a lot of times African Americans are misdiagnosed
Mm.
based on various um, internal biases.
Wow.
And so it is very important that
Wow.
we learn how to properly interpret, how to properly understand, and how to properly develop meaning from a culturally competent perspective to come
Right.
up
Right.
with what is going on with a person. We got to see the
Right.
person from their entirety. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So let's get into your book because it sounds like your book is titled Honoring the Whole You. So you were
Yeah.
talking about in this entirety. So tell us more about the book and what can the reader take from your book when once they purchase it?
Well, I am so excited, Miranda, to talk about this book. Number one, I am still on cloud nine.
Congratulations. So
Thank you
awesome.
so much because I just sent what day was it? I think it was on Wednesday that I just sent my batch of books. I mailed my batch of books. So this is
That's
really fresh,
awesome.
you guys.
Yes.
This is like hot
It's
off the press.
real.
Yes. And so let me talk to you about it. It's called Honoring the Whole You: Everyday Work-Life Management Strategies for Professional Moms and Caregivers. And the reason why I started telling my story earlier, but the reason why I decided to write the book was
Right.
because I struggled with work-life management
Hmm.
issues. As I said earlier, I became a mom at 42. Well,
Hmm.
August, and that was 2015. Well, guess what? August 2016, and my daughter Anna was 7 months.
Hmm.
I had just acquired my faculty job, and
Wow.
at the end of the year, I was getting married to my husband, now my husband, right? So
Hmm.
I found myself like, oh my gosh, I'm a new mom
Right.
and I'm a new older mom, right? And then I'm a new faculty and I'm about to be. So there were so many different
Right.
roles, right?
Right. So
That
many
I walked,
layers. Hmm.
yeah, that I had walked into. And I remembered walking down the hallway, just thinking to myself and praying, like, God, I thank you so much for these blessings that you gave me. But how do women manage all of this? How do Black
Right.
women manage all of this? And I was like, please help me to manage this. And so I began reflecting, and I was like, this is something that Black women don't talk about. We do
Right.
it,
Right.
but we don't talk about it. We've
Right.
been working and mothering and doing
Right.
community for centuries, but it's
Exactly.
not something that we talk
We
about,
talk
right?
about right.
Right. And
Right.
so it was at that moment in time that my research interests switched from dispersed social workers or remote social workers, and
Hmm.
that is still a research interest of mine,
Hmm.
to work life management, because it became so personal. And not
Right.
only did it become so personal, it was almost like taking on this, I won't say burden, but taking on this thing to say, I want to tell the stories of
Right.
Black women and how they do work in life, because that
That's
story
awesome.
is not being told. And so
Right.
at that time that I began to research, as well
Hmm.
as go through my trials and errors about
Right.
work-life balance, right? That
Hmm.
I began to learn and gain strategies, right? And I
Right.
remember there's one particular thing that I talk about in the introduction, that I went to a faith-based conference, and it was at that conference that this woman looked at me, and she just prayed for me, and she was like, you know what? You don't have to manage it all.
Mm.
Um, you don't have to
Wow.
manage it all. And I want to stay right there, because sometimes we are working
Hmm.
and we are battling some things.
Right.
We are
Right.
battling some emotional things. We are
Right.
battling guilt. We are battling sadness. We are battling
That is
um,
good.
emotional, just being drained, right? We are
Wow.
battling so much things, and we are working and
Wow.
battling internally, and nobody knows. But one of the things that she said to me
That is so
was
good.
that when you pray to the Lord, that prayer and being in his presence will refresh, will replenish, will give you the direction. And I learned this,
Right.
hear this from my spiritual leader all of the time, Apostle Yolanda Stiff, that it is in his presence that we get wisdom, knowledge,
Right.
clarity,
That is so
understanding,
true.
and we get the strength to go to do and navigate all within all of the roles that we do. That
Right.
really stuck with me, you know, and I have that in the book under the control and surrender, you know, because
Hmm.
let me tell you something. We can't pour from an empty cup, right?
You
And
said that's
so
it.
we are working and we are
Right.
battling internally. And
Right.
sometimes, sometimes we are working, and not only are we working, but we're working in our community places. We are working, doing task oriented things. We are working in the church. And let me tell y'all something. Sometimes we need to take some days off from work.
Yes.
We need to sit ourselves down, okay, from all of the stuff that we doing in church.
That
And we need to sit ourselves down from the stuff that we doing in the community to take care of ourselves.
that is so
Because if
true.
we don't take care of ourselves mentally and emotionally, no one else will. And if we don't take care of ourselves, we cannot take care of other people.
That is so true. And like Joe said, she said, feeling like an octopus, like you're being
Yeah.
pulled all over the place. You're being pulled at all different levels. Everyone is agreeing. So, you all, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Mama B and Joe and Billy. Thank you all for commenting. And we're talking to Dr. Sharlene, and she's talking about her new book, Honoring the Whole You. It's available on Amazon. And she's just talking about having this work-life balance and how women of color especially, we're struggling internally. We're looking okay on the outside, but there's an internal battle because we're trying to just be successful and do all these things, but then there's a battle going on. Do you how can you, if you don't mind sharing, or if you can share, if they, or do they need to go get the book, like, how can we really just start to balance this? Because I know that's part of who you are. You're a work balance strategist. How can we start to balance this? What are some things that we can start doing?
Well, guess what, Miranda? When you'll find in the book that I
Hmm.
don't believe in work-life balance.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
when we think about work-life balance, right,
Hmm.
we think about two scales that are equally distributed,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
But when we think about two scales that are equally distributed, when we look at that,
Wow.
that's neutrality. That's not
Right.
balance. That's
Yeah.
neutrality.
Wow. Hmm.
And when we think about all of the roles that we navigate, I'm a professor,
Right.
I'm a wife, I am active in my church. I sit on two boards by the grace of God, right? I
Right.
also write scholarly, and God has given me the grace to write this book.
You're busy.
How do
You're
you,
productive.
there's no such thing as balance.
Right.
There's no such thing as balance, right? That stuff has to be managed. And that's another reason why we
Wow.
are often stressed, because
Mm.
there's this fictitious uh um there's this fictitious image.
Right.
If we have to balance all of those things that I named. It's impossible.
Right.
It's impossible, right? They have to be managed.
That's good.
They have to be managed. So one day something's going to get 40%, and then you might have other 3, 4, it's going to
Hmm.
get 20. Somebody else is going to get 20. Somebody else is going to get 20. And then the other week, three months from now, the percentages in the area that you navigate, it might change.
They're going to switch, right?
They're going to switch.
Right.
Because demand in certain areas will increase. But it is very important that we major on self-care. And so if nothing else, I want you all to really reflect on what are your top 5 things that should be priorities, because things sometimes that are priorities are not priorities when we really think about the must things that need to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My priorities are God, self-care, my family, work, and church. Those are my top 5.
Right.
And because they are my priorities, if somebody says, girl, hey sis, you want to go out today? Well, if there's something going on with my top 5, guess what?
Right.
I can't go.
Right.
You see how that works?
And that's part of setting boundaries, right?
That's part of setting boundaries. If whatever is your top 5 is your top 5,
right?
When something else comes, you measure that against your top 5.
Right. That's right. And I think a lot of people don't do that all the time. I think that's where, like you said, that management gets out of whack, right? We don't know how to manage it anymore because we've allowed other outside things to come in.
Yes. And so that's where we talk about, or I talk about, priorities in the book and how to set priorities. Yeah.
Wow, that's so awesome. So if you all want to purchase this book, Honoring the Whole You, so is it as a book with different stories of different people, like they're sharing their stories?
No, actually, it's a workbook and journal.
Oh, okay.
So you see like how we're having these conversations about various topics, right?
Mm-hmm.
I write about the topic, and then I give journal prompts based on what has been written. So you can reflect and you can apply so that you can have outcomes.
Right. And what is this? Give us an example of one of the topics that you address that they can, journal about, or.
I would love to. So let me run down the topics and then you can ask me. Okay. So we talk about a womanist perspective. We talk about work-life harmony defined. We talk about stress. I say we, like there's 3 of us. I talk about self-worth. I talk about combating negative self-messaging, affirmations, what's important, priorities, boundaries, set goals, getting organized, self-care.
Okay.
And control and the power of surrender. So what would you like an example of? Yeah.
The power of surrender.
Okay. That's on page 73.
This sounds like an amazing book. You all go out and purchase it. Go to Amazon and go out and purchase it. It's going to be a blessing. Dr. Sharlene Allen Milton has written her book, Honoring the Whole You, and is available on Amazon. And if you want to work with her, I am going to put up her information while she is turning to her page. This is how you can connect with her on social media. So make sure you screenshot this, take a picture of it so you can connect with her.
Yeah, so we know that surrender, in order to surrender, right, we have to let go of control.
Right. And I have a hard time with that.
And I told you, and I just cussed. I know I just cussed. I know I just what? Let go.
Right.
Because when we control, we don't give God an opportunity to guide us according to his way for us.
Right. We don't allow him to have his sovereign will. We're getting in the way. So, I need to get better at that.
Right. And so I'm going to read one sentence. Control is rooted in lack of trust.
That's good. That's so true. I mean, that is definitely the truth. everybody type in the comments truth. That is definitely the truth of the matter. I mean, it's the inability to trust. So,
So,
wow,
thank you. Surrender takes humbling ourselves and seeking God for the answers.
that is true.
James 1:5 says, if any of you lack wisdom, ask.
Yeah,
Surrender also involves vulnerability to ask for help.
right. Exactly.
During a quiet time of your choosing, you can simply say, God, I am struggling with, and you fill in the blank.
Right.
He said, if anyone lacks wisdom, to ask. I am asking for your wisdom as it relates to blank. And
Wow.
so,
That's good.
we the journal entry, there are several journal
Mhm.
entries for this particular
Right.
reading, but it
Right.
says, how will you surrender to God areas that you have tried to control?
Wow. That's good. I mean, I love a good journal. I love a good, something that's going to make you do some work to actually is going to make you to reflect. And that is so powerful. Journaling, I believe, is so healing.
It
And
is
that's a,
definitely healing because it gets out from the subconscious, what's in your subconscious, and it
right.
gets it out. And
Right.
so not only is it's if you do it, the work,
Right.
you know, just in that journal question alone, it triggers a opening of another part of you. And if
Right.
you're willing to get vulnerable with not only yourself, but
Right.
to get vulnerable with God. And a lot of times when we are struggling emotionally, we just don't want to tap into that place of vulnerability. But
Right.
tapping into vulnerability is a area of letting go of control.
That's
And if
it.
you can't be vulnerable with yourself, then who can you be vulnerable with? And
Right.
in your own time, in your own space, these are some really internal shifting, emotionally shifting
Right.
questions.
Right.
That if you are truthful and open and
Right.
willing, you can experience
Right.
emotional shifts in your life.
And that is so powerful. That is so awesome. You all go out and purchase Honoring the Whole You on Amazon. It's a journal. It's going to help you to do the work, to help you to figure out how to manage, the emotions that you have managed between being a mom and a professor, working, having your professional career. That is so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Your baby, you're able to put that out. And so, you know what? You are a woman of so many accomplishments. Like you said, you've written a book, you've had a baby, you're a mother and you're a wife. You've done so many things. What are you most proud of the accomplishments that you've had so far?
My baby.
Yay. And she's super cute. I met her before we went live. Love it. She's so intelligent and beautiful. Yes. Our
My
children are such a
baby.
joy. Mhm.
Yes. And she was such a surprise at 42. I was 9 weeks pregnant. I didn't even know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
What a blessing.
she really is a blessing. She really is.
So, who are you today? From the young girl who struggled with low self worth, low self esteem, now you are Dr. Sharlene Allen Milton. Who is she? Who is this woman?
But you know what though, Miranda? Miranda, right?
Miranda.
Miranda. You know what though, Miranda? Um, be, before I'm Dr. Sharlene and before I'm all of these titles, I'm a daughter of God who's been redeemed,
Yes.
you know,
Amen.
who has been delivered and set free, and so I don't get hung up on the titles because guess what?
Hmm.
I know who I am if I don't stay in his presence.
Right.
I
Right.
know what I have come out of. And if we if I don't stay in my inheritance of as a daughter of God, I will be looking frontward but walking backwards. And that's
Wow.
something that I don't want to occur,
Right.
something that I don't want to happen. And so um I am exactly what I said in the introduction. I
Yes.
educate, I was born to teach. I was born to educate. I was born to equip, and I was born to support.
That's awesome.
So whether I'm Dr. Sharlene, whether I have a doctorate, a master's, a bachelor's degree, that's just who I am, and that's what I'm going to do. Period.
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 Period. That's just what it is. So, what do you know for sure? What are you sure of?
Like I said, I am sure, you know, let me tell y'all something. And the reason why I say, let me tell y'all something like that is because a lot of times people can be hung up on the titles. And don't get me wrong, it is a huge accomplishment. Okay. I'm
Right.
an educated woman and I am proud of it. But let me tell y'all something, right?
With the
I
New
know,
York accent coming out.
right. But with all of that, though,
Right.
you know, I know what it's like to struggle with low self esteem. Know what it's like to struggle with low self worth. I know what it's like to have depression. I know what it's like to have an allergic reaction 5 minutes after having this vaccine. You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
I know what it's like to have a major depressive episode as a result of taking medication that was prescribed. So,
Mm.
my view on life, and it has always been like this,
Mhm.
that you help people. It has always been communal, that you
Mhm.
help people. And one of the things that I know for sure is that God is there.
Yes, he
He's
is
Jehovah
so
Shammah.
awesome.
He's Jehovah Shammah. He is there.
Yes. Amen. He is there. He is Jehovah Shammah. And it's such an awesome God. And what words of encouragement would you like to leave for us? Because, again, I guess we're coming out of a pandemic. You said you got the vaccine. And so just share with us a little bit. What was that experience like for you? You said you got an allergic reaction
I
from
did.
the,
I did. And so the reason why I brought that up is because, and this has been weighing heavily on my mind and my heart. And
Mhm,
I guess we'll leave with two things. But one is
mhm,
that don't forget about that less than 1%. I have been in that less one than 1%, and I know people who have been in that less than 1% category. And
mhm.
when people take particular medicines, and it's like, oh, less than 1%, blah, blah, blah. We don't think that that's going to happen to us until it
Right,
happens to us.
right.
And then we are there like, oh my God, am I going to live today? Am I going to die today? What's
Mhm,
going to happen?
right.
And so I did. I had an allergic reaction to one of the vaccines within 5 minutes. I was confused. I was slow to respond, and I had a coughing fit for
Okay.
um, quite some time. And I went to an allergist, and it was confirmed that it was an allergic reaction. And so
Mhm,
we are waiting to see about getting fully vaccinated because I cannot use the current
mhm.
vaccines that are on the market.
Wow. Okay.
So what are some closing remarks? I really want to talk to that woman who is working and battling.
Talk to her.
And I just really want to say that
Talk to us.
I know that's right. I just really want to say that it's okay to say that one, I need help. It's
Mm,
okay to go to
it's
your
okay.
community to say that I need help. It's okay to go to your good girlfriends and say, you know what? I'm
Mm,
smiling, but I'm struggling.
mm.
And I'm struggling
That's good.
emotionally. It's
Right.
okay to seek help, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a coach, um,
Mhm.
it's okay.
It's okay.
Um, it's okay
Right.
because it's okay to finally address those emotional challenges that you've been putting off for years.
Right. Right.
Um, it's okay to um, stop sacrificing and get the degree or certificate that you've always wanted to get.
Mm.
It's okay to apply for that promotion because you are worth it,
Yes,
right?
that is so good.
And you have the power to combat those negative thoughts.
Right.
Um, you have the power to do that.
Right.
You know, you don't have to live with a cloud of depression, a cloud of sadness hanging over your head. You can get help,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Right.
and it's okay to set boundaries. They're going to be fine.
Yeah. It's for your sanity. It's for your safety.
But sometimes, we have to surrender to God. And I bet you when you surrender, He will pull you out of what seems to be you sinking in quicksand.
That's
And
it.
I just want you all to follow up with Miranda about what kinds of shifts mentally, emotionally, and or spiritually that have occurred as a result of you watching this broadcast. I love you.
Amen. I
I
love
love
you.
I love the work that I do, and I do this work for us
Yes.
because I am us, right? Because I know what it's
Amen.
like. And
Amen.
thank you.
Thank you. I'm super excited. I appreciate you seeing women that look like myself talking about mental health and wanting to see other women well emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And it's so important, especially right now with everything that we have going on with the racial injustices, the COVID, just everything that's going on in the world. We need to say it's okay to not be okay. It's okay that I'm not okay.
It's okay to not be okay. And the other thing, it's okay to turn the television off.
Right. That's really important.
It's
It's
okay to
okay.
set a boundary and
Yeah.
turn the television off. We
Right.
don't need to have the television on news channels because you know why? That messes with our mental and messes with our
Right.
emotions, brings the stress levels up, brings anxiety levels up, brings the
Right.
sadness levels.
Right. It does. And it makes your anxiety worse. And so I am grateful for you, Dr. Sharlene. And if you all want to get in touch with her, here are the ways that you can connect with her. Let me put this on the screen again. And I want to end on a lighter note. Yes, everyone go get help, connect with her. She is a social worker. She works in mental health. Reach out to her if you have questions and follow up with me as well if you have any concerns or questions. But I always like to ask our ladies before we end, what makes you a bougie girl on tonight? You know what bougie means: bold, one of a kind, unbothered, God's girl, intentional, and elegant. What stands out for you tonight as being a bougie girl? Since you're a part of the bougie squad now, so
Yes, yes, honey. One thing that I am simply classic.
amen. That's it. You are elegant. You're a classic.
I am simple but classy. I love
Yes.
pearls. I love a pearl necklace.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like a whole bunch of stuff, but I like it classy. Simple.
Right.
So that's what makes me a bougie girl, honey.
Hey, girl. Well, you are a part of the Bougie Squad, and I'm super thankful. We need women from all walks of life a part of the squad because we need some mental health. We need someone who can pray. We need to come together and lean on God because He is our foundation. And
Yes.
it's so good that, working in that field, that you also have a foundation with God, because mental health can take a toll on us.
And I look forward to doing a part 2 with you, to be honest. I think
Okay.
that would be great. I think that would be great.
I would love to.
Mhm.
I'm gonna follow up with you, and we're going to do a part 2 as the year goes on. We're going to continue to move forward, but I am thankful to God for this platform, for this conversation with Dr. Sharlene Allen Milton. Super
Thank you. Hi.
grateful. Thank
Bye
you
to
all for being
everybody.
a
Thank
part
you
of this
so much.
conversation. Bye, everyone. You all have a blessed weekend and a restful Friday night. And again, do not forget to register for the conference. Go to Eventbrite today and register. Again, here is the flyer. Go to Eventbrite, type in From Broken to Bougie. It's $25 for speakers, 2 amazing days, a Friday night, and then we're going to start again at 10 o'clock on Saturday with Lakeisha Dixon and Shayna Rattler. This is going to be a blessing. It's going to be amazing. It's going to bless your life. So do not hesitate. It's virtual. So you can be in your pajamas at home and you can get an encouraging word. You can get empowered, uplifted, delivered, and set free. So join us this coming Friday. It's going to be amazing. So thank you all for joining us. Happy weekend. Happy Friday night. And I love you guys. See you next week. Take care.